Today we're making a perennial favorite, buttermilk pancakes. So find yourself some buttermilk or check out the alternative suggestions in the recipe below and let's get cooking. To make our pancakes, we'll start with dry ingredients. That would be 2 cups of all-purpose flour, which weigh in at 250 grams. Those are already in the bowl, and we'll add to that half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and that's really where the rise comes from here, along with 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And we will give that a good thorough whisk to make sure that all of our dry ingredients are well incorporated. You do not want a patch of not so thoroughly mixed baking soda or baking powder lurking amongst your pancakes. It does not make for a tasty bite. All right, so all mixed there. If you wanted to, you certainly could swap in some whole wheat flour for part of the all-purpose. Wouldn't go more than half, but up to that would be just fine too. All right, now we will switch to the wet ingredients, and I'll use the same whisk. That's why we did the dry ingredients first. We have here 2 cups of buttermilk. Actually, if you want to go just shy of 2 cups to make slightly thicker pancakes, and if you would like your pancakes a little bit flatter, go with a little more liquid. If you don't have buttermilk, you sure can substitute just regular whole milk with vinegar or lemon juice, or mix a bit of yogurt and whole milk together, or skim milk for that matter. Lots of things will work. Buttermilk is what's usually used, but I'll have some notes below along with the rest of the recipe for substitutions, even to make it lactose free, which you can definitely do. All right, so to that we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of oil, just regular old vegetable or canola oil, and there we go, that's about our 1/3 of a cup. And 2 eggs. 1. 2. Give the hands a wash. And we will whisk until the eggs and the oil are thoroughly incorporated into our buttermilk. And once that is thoroughly incorporated, we will pour the wet ingredients right into our dry mixture and do some more whisking. We don't need this to be super smooth. We just want to make sure that there are no substantial pockets of flour that are unmixed into our pancake batter. And using a glass bowl, you can just look underneath and make sure there's no dry flour lurking at the bottom. And as long as there isn't, you are all done mixing. All right, set that whisk aside, and we will heat a pan. A nonstick pan is really nice here if you have one, a large one, so that you are not making tiny batch after tiny batch of pancakes. Or of course you can keep them warm in an oven. If you have a big griddle, that works great too. And we are just going to heat that pan on medium and put some kind of oil or butter into it. My household's preference is to use butter, and not just any butter. Our favorite butter, which is Kerrygold Irish butter. Although we usually don't butter the pancakes, we just cook them in butter and leave it at that. You can use whatever works for you. And while the pan is heating, we can get any add-ins that we'd like. So my son loves chocolate chip pancakes, so I've got some chocolate chips here. Blueberries, I prefer mine on top, but some folks like them in the pancakes, so I've got some blueberries. And one of our household favorites is to put a sprinkle of cinnamon sugar on the pancakes before they're finished cooking, and then that kind of caramelizes, just really subtle. They don't taste super cinnamon sugary, but it's a nice touch. So if you might like to try the same, grab yourself some cinnamon sugar. And while we're on the topic of that, you don't need to buy the pre-mixed one from the spice aisle. You'll really overpay for what is still mostly just granulated sugar. Just mix some up in a jar in your kitchen. If you already have ground cinnamon, just about 1 part ground cinnamon to 3 parts sugar or so should do the trick. All right, so now that my pan is at least partway heated, I will add the butter. There we go, and let that melt. And quick note, your first batch of pancakes will definitely take longer than the rest, so be patient with them, but then be watchful of the rest, because they will cook faster than that first pan full of pancakes. All right, and that butter's all the way melted. We're going to drop some batter in. Butter is ready. We don't want it to cook too long, or it will go from browning slightly, which might be a nice touch, to scorching, and that's no good. I'm going to use a little scoop here and a small spatula. It just makes for less pancake batter on my stove and more of it actually making it to the pan. And I like to make fairly small pancakes, so that's what I'm going to do. If you have more batter than you want to cook all at once, you can keep it in the refrigerator for up to a couple of days. It will discolor a bit at the top though. Or you can go ahead and make all of your pancakes and then they refrigerate or freeze really well for a breakfast, snack, or even dinner later on down the road. If your pancake batter does sit for a little while though, resist the urge to stir it. The bubbles that happen because of those leaveners, the baking soda and the baking powder, are what will make your pancakes fluffy, and if you stir those back down, that reaction isn't going to happen again. So just let it be. All right, my pancakes, I might have been a little ambitious about what's going to fit in this pan. If they merge together a bit, I'll just give them a nudge with the edge of my spatula after they've cooked partway. Now's time to add anything that I want to put in. So I'm going to put a few blueberries in one of these. Give them a little push just so that they make it further into the batter, like so. A few chocolate chips in another one, like so. And all of them will get a little sprinkle of cinnamon sugar. Ta-da. All right, just a light sprinkle of cinnamon sugar there. Now it's time to be patient, right? This first batch, like I said, will take a little longer than the rest. We are going to watch for those pancakes to have little bubbles rise all the way to the surface. We might see that a little bit already around the edges, but we don't see any of those little bubbles forming in the centers. That means they're not quite there yet. So we'll be patient, and then we'll take a look underneath one when we think they're about ready to flip. All right, now you may be able to see there are some bubbles forming on the tops of these pancakes, and that means we get to try and get them a flip. So, ta-da, beautiful. All right, we'll flip the rest. Just nudge them away from one another as needed, and they won't need nearly as much time on their second side. So keep an eye on them. Maybe another 2 minutes or so, and we will have pancake perfection. 2 more minutes was in fact all it took. There's the underside of one of those pancakes, nice and brown. It might look a little overdone, but promise you it's not. It's just the cinnamon sugar that's caramelized there. All right, so I will be plating these up and giving a few of them a taste before I go ahead and cook the rest of the batter. We hope you give these a try and you check back every Friday at 4 o'clock for a new recipe.